Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Thank you very much to TEDxMcGill for this phenomenal opportunity to speak. For once, I'm not going to be talking about my work, which makes this even more stressful than it normally is, because I want to stay true to the theme of this event, which is climbing ladders. And my career has been something like this. I did my medical training and my residency training in India, went all the way across the world to do my PhD and postdoc training in California. Then I don't know what happened to me. I moved from California to Canada. And after I moved, I count my age in terms of the Canadian winters I've survived. So I'm 12 winters old, believe it or not. I'm still here. I'm now a tenured full professor here at McGill and have been at McGill for my entire tenure here in Canada. And I do a lot of my work back in India, even today. So this long and winding career path, I just counted with the friend of mine who's in the room, is exactly 30 years. That's how much time this whole process has taken to play out. So if you ask me, have I climbed ladders, I will tell you that I've had to climb mountains to get to where I am, coming from where I came from. And this is where I came from. There's a small town in India called Vellore, which interestingly has this massive fort with a moat around it. I don't know what they were doing in the past, but and that's the hospital where I was born. And interestingly enough, I went back and did my residency training in the hospital where I was born. But before I could do a residency training, I had to first leave this little town, go to this big city called Madras in those days. Today it's called Chennai. And then do my undergraduate medical training at this medical school in Chennai. That was my early education. And the biggest mountain, I think, in those days was just getting into medical school. And in India, getting into medical school is challenging here, but in India, getting into medical school would mean competing against hundreds and thousands of people, right? Because India is a huge country. So that was a huge mountain to climb, and then the residency training was equally difficult, if not more. And then the biggest mountain to climb, I think, was leaving India. I knew when I finished my residency training in community medicine or public health that I really wanted to get a PhD in epidemiology. I was very inspired, desperately wanted to leave India, go to the US to train, and there was zero hope in hell I was going to make it to the US to train because I had no money. And it was impossible to even conceive of spending money to go and train in the US. I got a huge break where and I'll tell you more about that in a second, where I got to do my PhD at one of the finest universities in the world, University of California, Berkeley. And then did a postdoc at the University of California, San Francisco, and then McGill gave me a huge break by recruiting me as a tenure-track assistant professor 12 years ago. So this is how life has taken me along this path. And I wish I could tell you that this was all me, right? I was supremely talented, I was very hardworking, and somehow I blazed my way through all of this. Nothing would be further away from the truth. In fact, I cannot imagine anyone who's ever made it in their lives who've done it without help. Every one of us needs help. Every one of us does get help. And to me, that is the essence of this journey, that at every step of the way, I had people being the rungs of my ladder. And to me, those rungs of my ladder were these 6 incredible human beings, my teachers. I get choked up when I talk about them because at every stage, they came into my life like angels. This man, for example, in that little town that I grew up in, I had no inspiration or models. He met me when I was, 15 years old and inspired me to even think about medical school. I remember going to his house, and Professor Ramanathan said, I told him, Dr. Ramanathan, I'm interested in doing medicine. He said, Madhu, there are millions of people who want to do medicine. If you're not going to back up that ambition with hard work, I don't want you to waste my time. Get out of here. I don't want to see you again. If you're interested in working hard, I want you to show up at my house 6 a.m. every morning, because that's when I'm going to tutor you. So I got up 5 o'clock every day, get on my little motorcycle, drive across town to his house. And on a weekend, he will tell me, Madhu, I want you to come at 5 o'clock on Sunday evening and do a 3-hour mock exam. Now, who the hell does this? Really, who does this? And what is it that he saw in me? I cannot tell you. I was nobody, I was nothing, right? He saw something in me, and he put his faith in me, and I felt incredibly inspired to try my best. And this man, for example, and my friend in the room, Prabhakar, also knows him very well. He was like the most inspiring teacher we had in a city full of quacks and ridiculous people who were just exploiting the medical system. We had no good role models. He taught us evidence-based medicine a decade before the term was even coined. And he taught us by example that you could practice rational medicine without selling your soul and without doing irrational, corrupt things. And we were desperate for that kind of role models in India. We still are. Thousands of Indians, millions of Indians are looking for such inspiring role models. And I remember once going to his office and saying, Arjun, I want to do some research on something. I don't even know what the hell it was. I don't think it was anything significant. But I said, I want to buy books. I don't have money. The man takes out from his drawer a checkbook and writes me a check, said, go buy books. Who the hell does this? I cannot explain this, right? Because at that stage, when they mentor us or when they take a chance on us, we are nobodies, we have accomplished nothing in our lives. We may be indistinguishable from millions of other people. But they've taken that little touch. Maybe it's not a huge amount of money. It doesn't matter. The very little act of kindness that they show you can make the world of a difference in your life, right? And this man, for example, Art Reingold, he was the only one who funded me to go to America to study. If he hadn't given me that fellowship, my chances of doing a PhD at Berkeley was zero. Zero. And so all of these guys, these amazing professors and mentors, have truly been the rungs on which I have stepped and climbed ladders. Now the question is, how do I pay back? How do I give back to them? How do I give back to my country that trained me? What is my strategy in life for giving back? And I've been obsessed with this whole concept of giving back because I feel that I'm in a position in my life to do so. When I was an assistant professor 12 years ago at McGill, I wasn't thinking about giving back. I was thinking about getting tenured and doing all the things that I needed to do to get promoted and whatnot. But today, having reached somewhere in my life, I have to really think hard about what my strategy for giving back is. And here is how I'm approaching it. Firstly, I meet these amazing gentlemen, my teachers and mentors, every opportunity I get. I visit them, I say, can I meet you? Can I take you out for dinner? I stay with them. I'm in constant touch with them. I have not lost touch with my teachers who helped me the most. This, for example, is a picture from April of this year, where I met both my PhD supervisor, Colesford, and the mentor who gave me the fellowship, Reingold, and we created an award in his honor. I helped fundraise, and we created an award in his honor. I would love to do the same thing for every one of my teachers and make sure they are in some ways acknowledged that there is a way to, and I want to do this when they are still with me, still on this planet, not after they're gone. I don't think we should do that anymore. If you really care about someone, you thank them right now. In fact, after this talk, take out your phones, send a note to those who really helped you in your life, because you never know. There are no guarantees in this world, right? You've got to thank people when they're still with you. So doing that, I got a chance to thank them in the British Medical Journal. This was so nice. British Medical Journal ran an interview with me, and they asked me one question: who is the person you would most like to thank and why? I grabbed that with both hands, and I thanked all of them. And British Medical Journal gave me enough space to thank every one of them. So that's one tiny way. I don't think they are asking anything of me. They never wanted anything of me. I just want to do it because that's the right thing to do. It's just my way of expressing my gratitude to these people for being the rungs on my ladder. In terms of giving back to India or my country or my field, that is obviously a much more heavy lift. It's not as easy as thanking someone or creating an award in their honor. So I've written a piece in DevX on how immigrant scientists like me can and should give back to our homelands. Look at the talent here in North America. Many of us have come from all parts of the world. And when we've successfully made that journey, what is our moral obligation as privileged people today to give back to our countries? And I would argue we have phenomenal potential to give back. When I talk about give back, I'm not talking about just writing a check. Writing a check or giving money is possible, it's easy, but there are a dozen other ways to give back to one's country if you wanted to do that. In this op-ed, I gave like a dozen suggestions on how to give back. And whenever I meet other people like me, I am also curious to know how they are giving back to their countries. For example, I started in a very small way, very modest way. Every time I would go to India, I would visit some university, some hospital, and give a talk. And I realized, oh my God, students in India are hungry for this kind of stuff. Then I said, okay, I'll now offer you longer courses or workshops. So I started teaching short courses and workshops whenever I went to India. Then I said, this isn't enough. Let me become a visiting professor at some schools in India and start teaching every time I go there or helping them with research. That led to writing research grants with professors in India, collaborating on research in India. So ever since I left India, all my research on tuberculosis has been back in India. Even my PhD thesis was in India, my postdoc work is in India. And today, reaching where I am today, I helped create a Center for Infectious Diseases with a university in India. It's a McGill Manipal Center for Infectious Diseases, where we are actually funding some of the work in India. And I advise the government of India whenever they have an issue with TB, and if they invite me, I'm thrilled to be an advisor to them. And we bring lots and lots of students and trainees and professors from India to McGill University every year as part of our summer institute. PhD students have come from India and trained in our lab. Postdocs have come from India and trained in our lab. So that's all a whole list or a strategy of how one could contribute to one's homeland. Now, paying it back is one thing. There's also paying it forward. And here is how I think about paying it forward. I think it is because of the incredible teachers I've had that I am a teacher myself today. As a professor at McGill, I see teaching as a fundamental core of my life. I cannot tell you how many jobs I've turned down because it does not have teaching in it. I cannot for the life of me imagine going to work every morning if I cannot teach and interact with students. And I think becoming a teacher and being inspired by a wonderful teacher, in fact, I think my teaching style, if I had one, is an amalgamation of the 6 people that you saw. I've taken some best parts of every one of them, and I've tried to fuse it and add my own spin to it, and I think we are all a mosaic of whatever inspiring role models that we may have seen in our lives. And I shamelessly copy some of the best elements of what those teachers have had to offer me in my life. And students. So training students, mentoring them, giving them opportunities is a critical part of my life. And I'm hoping that they will, in turn, pay it forward in their lives. And that is the only ask I have of any of my students, that one day they give that deserving student a break, a chance to do something, encourage them, mentor them, and pass that so that the chain of transmission continues, so to speak. So I want to leave you with 2 concluding messages. I don't know if you've seen any of these amazing movies. Whenever I see these movies about great teachers, I start crying, you know? All of these are amazing. My daughter loves Jack Black, and Robin Williams, of course. How sad it is that he's not with us anymore. But I think teachers like these are so rare. They're so rare. You will have to troll through thousands to find one. And if you've been lucky in your life to have that amazing teacher who just nudged you at the right time, who lifted you gently when you needed it, pulled you out of a black hole when you needed it, I think you've got to find a way to thank them. Do not wait until they are gone. Find them today, send them a message as to how much you care about what they did to you. I think that's about all they expect. Even that they don't expect, right? Good teachers do things just because it's the right thing to do. They're not doing anything because they expect something back from you. They just do it because that's how they are. So that's the first message. Never, ever miss a chance to thank a great teacher or a mentor. Secondly, if you have, as I have, successfully climbed ladders, it is your obligation, moral obligation, to become a rung for somebody else's ladder so they can also get a leg up when they need it the most. Thank you so much.